Thanksgiving morning was cold that year. I remember waking up early, putting on the sweater my grandson Noah gave me 2 years ago, back when he still hugged me without needing to be told. I had ironed my pants, combed my hair, and even made a small centerpiece with dried leaves and candles. Just a little something to bring warmth to the table. I baked a pecan pie, the one my daughter-in-law Amanda always asked for, even though she claimed to be on a diet. I had packed it in one of those reusable tins she once bought me from Costco, and I smiled at the memory as I wrapped it in foil. They were supposed to pick me up at 2 p.m. Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow's episode is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. By noon, I had everything ready. My coat hung by the door, my purse packed, even the gift for the kids, little handmade Thanksgiving cards with $20 bills tucked inside. It wasn't much, but they used to light up when they saw those envelopes. I sat on the couch with my hands folded in my lap, glancing at the clock every few minutes. The TV was on, something forgettable. My mind wasn't really there. By 2:10, I thought maybe they were just running late. Amanda never was a punctual person, and my son David, he usually just went along with whatever made things easier. By 2:20, I sent a text. Me, "Hey sweetheart, just checking in. Everything okay?" No reply. At 2:45, I tried calling David. Straight to voicemail. I still remember the way my chest felt, tight but hollow, like I was both floating and sinking at the same time. I stood up, walked to the window, and peeked out even though I already knew the driveway was empty. I walked back and sat down. Then, I did something I shouldn't have done. I opened Facebook. The first thing I saw was a picture Amanda had just posted. Her, David, and the kids, smiling in front of a golden brown turkey. She had captioned it, "Family is everything. Happy Thanksgiving from our table to yours." I stared at the screen, trying to make sense of it. I looked at the timestamp, posted 7 minutes ago. The table was fully set. Everyone was dressed. Wine glasses were clinking. I wasn't late. I was never invited. At first, I thought there had to be a mistake. Maybe they changed locations last minute. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe my son had tried to call and something went wrong. But then I saw it. Another comment. From Amanda, replying to someone asking if Grandma Rose had made her famous pie. Amanda wrote, "We're keeping things low-key this year, just immediate family." I read it twice. I don't know what hurt more, the fact that I wasn't considered immediate family, or that Amanda had made the choice to post it like that, so casually, like I didn't exist. I set my phone down. The room felt different, still, and quiet. Not peaceful. Just silent. I sat there for a while. Then I got up and unwrapped the pie. I sliced a piece and put it on a plate, even though I had no appetite. I chewed slowly, barely tasting it. I turned off the TV and sat in the quiet until it got dark. By 7 p.m., I had deleted Facebook from my phone. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, thinking of every Thanksgiving before this one. The year David was in high school and burned the stuffing. The year Amanda spilled gravy all over her white blouse. The kids used to sneak extra dessert when they thought I wasn't looking. I had made every one of those meals. I bought every dish they still used. The next morning, I woke up and cleaned the kitchen. I packed up the rest of the pie and put it in the freezer. I threw away the centerpiece. I folded the Thanksgiving cards and slipped them into a drawer. Something inside me had shifted, but I didn't have the words for it yet. I spent that Saturday going through my finances, not because of what had happened, but because I had nothing else to do. I logged into my bank account, something I rarely did. I had been sending Amanda and David money for years, a couple hundred here and there, birthday gifts for the grandkids, Christmas money, new tires for the car, groceries when Amanda lost her job, help with the down payment on the house. And then, I saw it. There was an automatic transfer I had forgotten existed. $2,400 monthly, labeled Mortgage Fund. It had been going out for over 4 years. That didn't include the insurance payments, the utility bills I had set up through my account, or the $10,000 I gave them 3 years ago, just until David gets that promotion. The house they were living in, I was still paying for it. I clicked through more records, cell phone bills, a summer camp charge, health insurance, Netflix, Spotify, even the internet at their house. My card was on file. I felt sick, like I had been living in someone else's dream, and now I was waking up. The couch they sat on in the Thanksgiving photo, bought with my check from the year I sold Dad's old truck. The kitchen cabinets in the background. I had paid for the remodeling when Amanda said it wasn't safe for the kids. I didn't eat that night. I couldn't. On Sunday, I drove past their house. Slowly. I didn't stop. But I saw them through the window. Amanda on the couch, David handing out plates. The kids watching something on TV. All of them laughing. I was invisible. When I got home, I sat at the table and stared at my phone for a long time. Then I opened the banking app and began. I canceled the mortgage transfer. I removed my card from the utility accounts. I changed the passwords on all the streaming services. I revoked the authorized user access to my credit card. I didn't say a word. I didn't send a message. I didn't make a phone call. I just disappeared from the parts of their life they had never acknowledged I was holding up. When I turned off the lamp that night, I expected to feel guilt. I waited for the pit in my stomach, but it never came. Instead, for the first time in years, I slept through the night. The next morning, I woke up early. Not because I had anything to do, but because my body was used to it. Years of helping others, babysitting the grandkids, running errands, picking up Amanda's prescriptions, had wired me to rise before the sun. But that Monday was different. There was nothing on my list and nobody was expecting me. For once, I didn't feel like I was running behind. I made myself coffee. Normally, I brewed a full pot in case David stopped by. He liked it strong, with just a splash of milk. But that morning, I made 1 cup, just for me. I drank it slowly, watching the light shift across the window. The sky was pale, quiet. I felt strange. Not exactly free, but maybe close to it. After breakfast, I opened the drawer where I'd stashed the folded Thanksgiving cards. I looked at each envelope again, one for Noah, one for Ellie. I had even written little notes in each one, reminding them how proud I was, how much I loved them. I reread the words and placed the envelopes in the back of my closet, behind the winter blankets. I wasn't going to throw them away, but I couldn't look at them either. I turned back to my laptop and reopened the banking page. The numbers stared back at me, cold, hard proof of everything I had given without question. Over the next hour, I opened old statements, emails, even receipts I had shoved in drawers over the years. I created a spreadsheet, not out of pettiness, but because I needed to see it all in one place. I added every recurring payment, every emergency fund, every just this once transfer, $2,400 monthly for the mortgage, $120 for internet, $85 for Amanda's cell phone, $360 quarterly for home insurance, $10,000, gift for the kitchen remodel, $3,800 for the kids' private school registration fees, $250 here, $500 there, all labeled as temporary by the end of the morning. The total was just under $96,000. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. That was money I had told myself I didn't need. Money I had sacrificed vacations for. Money I never spent on myself. I had told everyone I didn't mind. I told myself it was love. That's what mothers do, isn't it? They give. Quietly. Without conditions. Without expecting to be paid back. But I hadn't given love. I had subsidized a life that excluded me. That afternoon, I sat on the porch with a pad of paper and a pen. I made a list of things I had put off over the years. Simple things. New shoes, a dentist appointment, A small weekend trip I had wanted to take with my church group but skipped because I was helping the kids with the bills. Now I had no reason to keep waiting. At around 3 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was David. David. Hey, Mom, saw some stuff got declined. Is something wrong with the account? I stared at the message. Short, casual, no apology. No. Sorry we didn't pick you up. No explanation for Thanksgiving. Just concern about the money. I didn't answer. 30 minutes later, Amanda called. I let it ring. Then came another text from David. David, mortgage bounced. Amanda's freaking out. Can you check your bank settings? Still nothing about Thursday. Still no acknowledgement that they had left me out entirely. I powered off my phone. The next morning, I went to the bank in person. I sat across from a young man in a blue tie and told him I wanted to remove my name from a joint account. The house was in their names, but the financing had been in mine. To help them get approved, I had said at the time. What a mistake that was. The banker asked if I was sure. I nodded. That same afternoon, I got a voicemail from Amanda. Hi, Rose. I don't know what's going on, but the bank says you're removing your name from the mortgage. We're in the middle of a refinance, and now everything is on hold. Can you please call me? This isn't the right time for this. I didn't return the call. Later that week, I went through my closet. I filled 3 garbage bags with things I didn't wear anymore. Things I had held on to in case Amanda wanted them. She never did. I donated everything. It felt good. That weekend, I started redecorating the spare bedroom. It had always been the kids' room, full of toys and old sheets Amanda didn't want at her house. I packed everything in boxes and labeled them with masking tape. When I was done, I stood in the doorway and looked at the empty space. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but I knew what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't wait for them to fill it. On Sunday evening, David showed up at my door. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. Hi, Mom, he said, trying to smile. He was wearing his usual weekend hoodie, the one with the stain near the collar. Can we talk? I stepped aside and let him in. He sat down at the kitchen table. I stood. What's going on? He asked. Amanda's in a panic. She says you cut off everything without warning. I did, I said. He blinked. Why? I mean, we've always appreciated the help. You've been so generous. I stared at him. David, do you know where I was on Thanksgiving? He opened his mouth, closed it, shifted in his seat. We just thought, Amanda said. We didn't want drama this year, he mumbled. Drama, I repeated. You mean me? It's not like that, Mom. No? I leaned forward because I saw the photo. The caption said, immediate family. I didn't realize I wasn't part of that anymore. He rubbed the back of his neck. We thought maybe you needed rest. You've been tired lately. And Amanda thought, I cut him off. Amanda thought I wouldn't notice I paid for the food you served on the table I helped finance in the house I still pay the mortgage on. He had no response. I'm not angry, David, I said, but I'm not stupid, and I'm done. He swallowed hard. We're going to be in trouble, Mom. We've built our life based on my money. Silence. He nodded slowly. I guess. Yeah. I stepped away from the table. You're a grown man with 2 children. Figure it out. He stood. So that's it? That's it. He hesitated in the doorway. I didn't know how much you were doing. Amanda handled the bills. I just assumed. I know, I said. You didn't want to know. He left without saying goodbye. That night, I reheated the rest of the pecan pie from the freezer. I sat at the kitchen table alone. No kids, no noise, no ungrateful phone calls. Just me. And it was enough. The week after David came to the house, there were no calls, no texts, no voicemails. At first, I thought that maybe they had finally understood. That they had taken the conversation for what it was. A boundary, a decision. I told myself they were processing, maybe even reflecting. But deep down, I knew better. Silence in that family never meant peace. It meant calculation. On the 10th day, Amanda broke the quiet. It started with a text. Amanda, Rose, I think you're overreacting. Can we talk like adults? I didn't respond. 2 hours later, Amanda, the kids are asking why they haven't seen you. I don't want to explain this to them. Again, I didn't respond. That evening, I got an email. It was long, Amanda's style. She always did prefer having the last word in writing. The subject line read, Clarification. Rose, I'm really disappointed in how things have unfolded. I understand you're upset about Thanksgiving, but it was never our intention to hurt you. The kids love you. David loves you. I do too. But things have been difficult for us financially, and your support has always been helpful, not mandatory. Cutting. Off everything without a single conversation was unfair. It's put us in a very difficult position. The mortgage is behind now. The school is calling. David's credit card got declined yesterday at the grocery store. This isn't how family treats each other. Please, let's talk. I read it twice. Then I deleted it. 3 days later, the school called me directly. They had my number on file because I was the emergency contact for Noah and Ellie. The woman on the line was polite, but direct. Hi, Mrs. Pearson. I'm calling from Lakewood Academy. We're reviewing financial aid status and noticed the last tuition installment has not been paid. You've been listed as the primary financial sponsor. I just wanted to verify if that's still accurate. It wasn't, not anymore. I'm no longer handling tuition for Noah and Ellie, I said. You should contact their parents. The woman paused. Would you like us to remove you from the account entirely? Yes, I said. Please do. I hung up and stared at the phone in my hand. The weight of that moment hit me, not because I felt guilt, but because I realized how deeply I had allowed myself to be woven into responsibilities that were never mine to carry. That same afternoon, Amanda came to my house. I watched her pull up from the kitchen window. Her car was newer, leased in my name no less. Something I had agreed to 2 years ago when she told me the kids needed something safe and reliable. Now I watched her step out in boots I remembered helping her pick out last Christmas. She rang the doorbell twice. I didn't answer. She knocked. Rose, she said, her voice raised just enough to carry through the door. I know you're in. There. I stayed silent. I don't want to fight. I just want to talk. Please, she waited. After 2 minutes, I heard the car door slam, tires crunch on the gravel, and then she was gone. The next day, David called. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't apologize. He didn't even sound upset. Just cold. Mom, I need to understand something. Are you really done helping us? Like, permanently? Yes, I said. A long pause followed. We're not going to make it without help. You'll have to learn, I replied. Come on, Mom. You know Amanda doesn't make enough. I've been working overtime just to keep up. You know how expensive things are. I do. That's why you should have budgeted when you had help. Another pause. You know what? This is really selfish. You're punishing us for one bad day. No, David, I said calmly. I'm finally recognizing a bad pattern. He sighed. What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? Fine. I'm sorry. We didn't invite you. It wasn't supposed to be personal. But it was, I said. And it wasn't just Thanksgiving. It's been happening slowly for years. He didn't answer. After a few seconds, I heard a faint mutter, something like, unbelievable, and then he hung up. That weekend, I went grocery shopping for myself for the first time in years. I mean really for me. I didn't fill the cart with kid snacks or Amanda's almond milk or David's protein shakes. I bought what I wanted. I came home, cooked a proper dinner, and ate at the table. I put on music. Not a playlist for the grandkids, just something I liked. The quiet didn't bother me. But Monday morning, I saw the consequences. At 7:30 a.m., I stepped outside to get the paper and noticed something off about the mailbox. It was wide open. Junk mail had been shoved inside carelessly, like someone had been digging through it. I checked the contents. A bank statement was missing. I called the post office. They couldn't confirm anything except that mail theft was increasingly common. I made a report. I changed my passwords. I added two-step verification to my banking app. 2 days later, a charge popped up. A large online order from a baby store. Crib, stroller, toys. None of it was mine. I called the bank immediately. They flagged it. The card had been used through a saved account on a website I remembered only one person using. Amanda. She had bought a gift for a friend's baby shower on my card once. I must have left the information saved by accident. The fraud report took hours to complete. But I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry. I just felt done. I called my lawyer the next morning. "Do you want to press charges?" she asked. "No," I said. "But I want full control back. No access for anyone else. And I want my name off their car lease too." That may get ugly. I know. She handled it within the week. A week later, Amanda posted a cryptic message on Facebook. "Some people pretend to be generous but only love control. Be careful who you trust." I didn't respond, but I noticed the comments. Friends from church, neighbors, even a few of her relatives chimed in with sympathy. That was when I realized she was spinning a new story. One where she was the victim, where I was the unreasonable, bitter mother-in-law who cut off her family for no reason. A woman clinging to money instead of love. What none of them knew was that for nearly a decade, I had paid to keep that family afloat, quietly, silently, without ever asking for anything in return. Now, I had disappeared from their lives, and they didn't know how to survive without me. But I did. I wasn't sure what came next, but for the first time in years, it was mine to decide. The Facebook post Amanda made didn't surprise me. That was her style. Talk in circles, imply things, never take real responsibility. She didn't name me, but everyone knew who she meant. And the people who didn't know didn't matter. I didn't need the approval of Amanda's friends or some distant cousin from her side of the family. I wasn't trying to win anyone's opinion. I just wanted peace. But they weren't done. A few days after that post, I got a letter from a credit card company. A card I hadn't used in years, one I thought had been closed, had a balance of $276. Charges from grocery stores, gas stations, and an online boutique Amanda liked. I called immediately. They said the account had 2 authorized users, me and Amanda. I asked for a full transaction list. All of the charges were recent, all made in the past 3 weeks. I had been careful. I had removed access to every shared account I could think of, but this one slipped through. She had kept the card and assumed I wouldn't notice. I filed a fraud report. I texted David that evening. First time since our last conversation. Me. "Amanda used one of my old credit cards. The account's been flagged. You should know." No reply for several hours. Then finally, David. "You didn't have to take it that far. She thought it was still okay." Still okay? After everything? After I had made it very clear I was done? That night, I sat at the kitchen table and printed out everything. Bank statements, credit card charges, PayPal logs. I organized them into a folder. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed to be ready. Something in my gut told me this wasn't over. 2 days later, a sheriff's deputy knocked on my door, polite, calm, said he needed to speak with me about a civil complaint filed by Amanda. According to the document, Amanda claimed I had, abruptly and unfairly, pulled out of a verbal agreement to provide financial support, and that my actions had caused undue hardship for her and the children. She attached copies of old messages, times I had said things like, "Don't worry, I'll cover that," or "Just use my card," out of context, twisted to make it look like there was some formal agreement. The deputy looked embarrassed. "Ma'am, it's a civil issue. This isn't criminal. But I'm required to deliver the notice. You'll need to respond through your attorney." I nodded. I didn't get upset. I didn't yell or cry. I called my lawyer the moment he left. She reviewed everything. "This won't hold in court," she said. "It's a scare tactic." Amanda thought I would panic. that I'd cave to avoid drama. She didn't know that I was long past the point of fearing embarrassment. The lawyer filed a response. We included proof of all the payments I'd made over the years, plus a letter clearly stating that all financial support had been voluntary and had ended. She advised me to cut off all remaining communication with David and Amanda, unless it came through legal channels. So I did. I blocked their numbers. I muted Amanda's Facebook. I removed myself from the school emergency list. I even went so far as to change my email address, just to be sure. It was the most complete disconnection I'd ever made. Weeks went by. Silence. Then, slowly, bits of information started trickling back to me, through neighbors, through people at church, even from the pharmacy where Amanda used to send me to pick up the kids' allergy medication. The house had gone up for sale. Not by choice. They were behind on payments now that my automatic transfers were gone, and the bank wasn't waiting. David had taken a second job, late-night stocking shelves. Amanda had started selling clothes online, calling herself a mompreneur. The same designer outfits she used to flaunt were now being auctioned off in live videos. The kids weren't at Lakewood Academy anymore. They had been pulled out and transferred to a public school nearby. Someone from the PTA mentioned it in passing. I nodded, said nothing. I wasn't gloating, but I wasn't sorry either. I had given them a stable life, more than most parents would. And instead of gratitude, I got exclusion, manipulation, and blame. They didn't know how to live without me, because they had never tried. And now they had to. Around this time, I started spending more time with people who weren't family. A neighbor invited me to her book club. I joined. A woman from church asked if I'd like to take a gardening class with her. I said yes. I bought a small bird feeder for the backyard. Every morning, I'd sit with my coffee and watch them gather. It became a small routine I looked forward to. I started sleeping better. Not just longer, but deeper. I wasn't clenching. My jaw at night. My shoulders didn't ache from tension. One afternoon, I got a call from the leasing company about Amanda's car. Ma'am, your name is still listed as primary on the lease. Payments haven't been made in 2 months. Can I have the car repossessed? I asked. The man paused. Yes, ma'am, you can. Do it. 3 days later, I heard that the car was towed from the parking lot of Amanda's gym. Someone had seen it happen. Amanda had thrown a fit in front of the building, screamed at the man hauling it, said it wasn't fair. Fair. That word kept echoing in my head. Was it fair when I sat alone on Thanksgiving? Was it fair when they used my money but erased my presence? Was it fair when Amanda weaponized kindness to paint me as a controlling villain? I had never wanted power over them. I just wanted respect, a seat at the table, a photo on the mantle, a thank you that wasn't forced or transactional. Instead, I got a legal notice and Facebook gossip. By the end of the month, the house was officially listed. Price was under market. They were desperate, and I was still in mine. Mortgage-free, bills current, and no one calling me for favors. That Saturday, I rearranged the spare room. Not for guests, not for the grandkids, for myself. I turned it into a sewing room, something I had dreamed about for years, but never had the space for. I hung shelves, organized fabric, even bought myself a new machine. It wasn't just a room. It was proof. Proof that I could build something just for me. That I didn't owe anyone my time, my money, or my silence. Not anymore. After the car was towed, things got quieter again. But in a way that felt heavier, not lighter. The kind of quiet, that meant something was brewing. I kept to my routines, stayed off social media, and didn't ask around. But people still talked. Not because I asked them to, but because small towns and close communities make secrets impossible. The first real sign came through my mailbox. A thick envelope, no return address. Inside, a handwritten letter on lined paper. It was from Amanda's, Mother, Denise. I hadn't spoken to her in at least 5 years. We were never close, not even when things were better between me and Amanda. She'd always been polite but cold, like someone forced to be in the same room. The letter started with, "Rose, I'm writing because things have gotten out of control, and I think you need to reconsider what you're doing to this family." I read the whole thing, front and back. Twice. It was filled with subtle guilt. The children are suffering. David is exhausted. Amanda's emotional health is fragile. The house sale is humiliating. She even mentioned the sewing room, as if she expected me to feel guilty for enjoying a small space while they were struggling to keep a roof over their heads. The final line read, "You were always the bigger person. I hope you find it in yourself to act like it again." I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. I didn't respond. A few days later, the phone calls started again. Not from Amanda or David, those numbers were still blocked, but from other family members. David's cousin Max, a niece from Amanda's side, even someone I hadn't seen since their wedding. Each call followed the same script. "Rose, we heard about everything. It's tearing the family apart. They're just trying to get back on their feet. Don't you miss your grandkids?" That last question always hit a little harder. I did miss them. But what none of them seemed to understand was that the distance didn't start with me. I hadn't abandoned anyone. I had been pushed out, politely, slowly, but deliberately. Then the threats started. At first, it was veiled. A voicemail from Max. "I know you're mad, but dragging this out isn't helping anyone. People are talking, Rose. Maybe it's time to think about how this looks." A Facebook comment under a mutual friend's post. Some people pretend to be saints, but their silence says more than their words ever could. Then came the message from Amanda's new email address, one I didn't recognize. It slipped through my filters. "Rose, I didn't want to do this, but if you continue blocking us out, we're going to have to take legal action to secure what's rightfully owed to the kids. They don't understand why you've disappeared. We may have to explain it in ways you won't like." That was the line that made me sit up. I forwarded the message to my lawyer immediately. She replied a few hours later, "It's empty. They're grasping at anything. Keep all correspondence. Do not respond directly." I did exactly that. I saved every email, screenshot, voicemail. I created a folder. I labeled it clearly. Attempts to intimidate. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want them to suffer. But I wanted a record, something undeniable. Because I knew people like Amanda. I knew how she spun stories, used silence against others, counted on confusion and guilt to get what she wanted. This time, she wasn't going to rewrite the facts. About a week later, I went to the grocery store and ran into Ellie. She was with her friend and looked surprised to see me. She hesitated, then walked over. "Grandma?" she asked. I smiled. "Hi, sweetheart." She gave me a quick hug. It was awkward, like she wasn't sure if she should. I looked around. Amanda wasn't there. "Where's your mom?" I asked gently. "In the car," she said. Then she lowered her voice. "She doesn't know I saw you." I nodded. Ellie fidgeted. "Are you mad at us?" "No," I said, "but I needed some space." She looked like she didn't fully understand. She was only 10. I didn't expect her to. "I miss the Saturdays," she said quietly. "I do too," I replied. "But sometimes grown-ups have to figure things out first." She hugged me again, this time tighter, then turned and walked away. I stood there for a moment, holding on to the feeling of her arms around me. It reminded me of what I was fighting to protect. Not control, not pride, but clarity. That little girl deserved a grandmother who wasn't exhausted, used, or made to feel invisible, and I couldn't be that person while being exploited. The next day, I sat at my sewing machine and started a quilt. Nothing fancy, just simple fabric pieces I'd collected over the years. Each one reminded me of something: a dress I wore to David's graduation, a shirt I bought during a trip with my late husband, an apron I used to wear during Sunday dinners. As I stitched, I thought about everything that had happened, All the years I said yes when I should have said wait, all the times I paid instead of paused, all the moments I let guilt blur my judgment. That quilt wasn't just a project, it was a timeline, a reclamation of what was mine. That evening, my neighbor, Judy, stopped by. She brought homemade banana bread and sat with me in the kitchen. She asked how things were going. I told her the truth. Not all the details, but enough. She didn't judge. She didn't offer unsolicited advice. She just listened. "I'm proud of you," she said. "Most people wouldn't have the courage." "It doesn't feel like courage," I replied. "It feels like cleaning up a mess I let grow too big." She nodded. "That's what courage usually feels like." After she left, I sat in my living room with the lamp on low. I looked around. Nothing had changed, and everything had. My home wasn't louder or more crowded, but it was safer. The walls didn't carry their tension anymore. The air wasn't heavy with expectation. The threats had stopped. And for the first time in years, it was worth every penny. The begging had gone quiet. They had finally realized I wasn't coming back. Not as a wallet, not as a default caretaker, not as someone they could count on to clean up after their bad decisions. I was still Rose, still a mother, still a grandmother, but I had stepped out of the role they created for me and reclaimed the life I had nearly forgotten I had. Thanksgiving came around again, almost a full year since I sat in my living room, staring at a phone that never rang and a pie I baked for. People who never showed up. The memory of that day wasn't gone, it never would be, but it no longer hurt the way it did then. It had become something else. A marker of when everything changed. The morning started quietly. I made coffee, the same way I always did. I didn't set the table for company. I didn't bake a pie. I didn't wait for a knock at the door. I had plans, none of which included Amanda, David, or anyone pretending things hadn't happened the way they did. Instead, I got dressed, tied a scarf around my neck, and drove to the shelter downtown. I signed up to volunteer for the day's lunch service. Judy came too. We parked side by side and carried trays of food, poured coffee, and handed out plates. There were older folks, young mothers with babies, veterans, teenagers with tired eyes. Some said thank you. Others didn't speak at all. It didn't matter. Nobody asked who I was. Nobody needed a reason for why I showed up. For the first time in a long time, I was just another person doing something kind. I didn't need to be anything else. After the service, Judy and I went to a small cafe for a late lunch. We shared a booth by the window, ordered sandwiches and pie, and talked about everything but the past. She told me about her grandkids. I told her about my quilt project. And we laughed until we both leaned back and sighed at the same time. It felt like contentment. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind you notice in the middle of a breath. On the drive home, I passed a familiar street. I hadn't meant to go by their old house, but I did. It looked different now. The for sale sign was gone, a new car in the driveway, a wreath on the door. They were out. Someone else was in. The last time I'd seen that house, it was through a phone screen, on Amanda's Instagram, with a turkey on the table and wine glasses in their hands. I had paid for all of it, and now, none of it existed in their lives anymore. The photos, the food, the kitchen, the comfort they flaunted as their own was gone the moment I stopped holding it up. That night, I went home and took a photo of my living room, just for myself, not to post, not to send, just to keep. I had rearranged the furniture, hung new curtains, painted the walls, nothing expensive, nothing fancy, but everything chosen by me, for me. My house didn't look like theirs, it looked like mine. The sewing room was nearly done. The quilt was folded over a chair. I had started a second one, a little brighter than the first. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet. Maybe donate it. Maybe keep it. Maybe give it to someone who didn't expect it. Later that night, I got a message. It was from Ellie, through an app I didn't recognize, but somehow she'd found me. "Hi, Grandma. I miss you. I don't really understand what happened. Mom says you don't want to talk to us, but I don't think that's true. I stared at the message for a long time. She was only 10. I couldn't expect her to understand all of it. She only knew what Amanda told her. What David allowed. I miss you too, I typed. I never stopped loving you. Sometimes grown-ups make choices to protect themselves. But I'm still here. She replied almost instantly. Can I see you soon? I didn't respond. Right away. I needed to think. I needed to be sure. I wasn't afraid of seeing Ellie. I was afraid of being pulled back into something I'd worked so hard to step out of. But she wasn't Amanda. And she wasn't David. She was just a little girl who used to sit on my lap and color pictures while I made pancakes. Maybe after the holidays, I replied. I'd like that. No pressure. No promises. Just an opening. I logged off, made myself tea, and sat in the living room. The table wasn't full of food. The house wasn't filled with laughter. But I wasn't alone. I was with myself. And that was enough. I didn't need a big meal to feel full. I didn't need applause to know I mattered. I had paid for their peace. Now I was paying for mine.